Number 10. Undertaker's broken eye socket. The Undertaker has had his fair share of injuries over his legendary 30-plus year career, but one of the more nasty ones he suffered would come from the hands of the smallest man on the roster, Rey Mysterio. The incident would occur when the two faced off on an episode of SmackDown in 2010. In a true mesh of styles, Rey Mysterio would Hurricane Rana the Undertaker into the top turnbuckle and would then overshoot a springboard seated senton, landing hard onto Undertaker's face. The dead man could be seen immediately grabbing at his face as blood started to flow. The Undertaker would go on to finish the match, but once backstage it was revealed that he had suffered a fractured orbital bone and shattered nose from the nasty mishap. The Undertaker would even state on recent podcast interviews that he still suffers from the injury to this day, saying, "If I don't look peripherally, you become a plague. I see two lights when I look at that side of my eye to this day," and that's been over 10 years. Number 9. Warhorse's ripped lip. You might recognise Warhorse from his debut on AEW Dynamite in 2020 when he challenged Cody Rhodes for the TNT title in a losing effort. However, outside of this, Warhorse is a standout name on the independent scene, and on one fateful night in 2018, he would face off against Gary Jay for the 0-1 USA promotion. The match would be held under last man standing rules, so both men held nothing back. At one point during the match, however, Gary Jay would unscrew the corner of the turnbuckle and use the hook to fish hook Warhorse's mouth, kayfabe trying to rip his cheek wide open. Gary Jay would then throw Warhorse out of the ring, but the steel turnbuckle hook was still attached to Warhorse's mouth, resulting in it ripping his cheek and lip wide open. Blood began to gush as it looked like the side of his face was hanging off. Miraculously, Warhorse managed to finish the match, but would be rushed to hospital right after. Apparently, when he got to the hospital, a nurse asked him what had happened, and he humorously replied, "I lost my smile." A huge scar is still visible below his lip to this day following the incident. The 0-1 USA promotion had to release a statement apologising to some fans who didn't appreciate seeing such a gruesome injury unfold in front of their eyes. Number 8. New Jack goes blind in one eye. It's no surprise that the original gangster New Jack finds his way onto this list. New Jack was a legitimate tough guy who would become one of ECW's most beloved stars. During his rivalry with Vic Grimes, they would do battle at ECW's Living Dangerously 2000 pay-per-view. The match would unfold all over the arena and eventually end in a no contest due to such a brutal ending. As the pair fought throughout the crowd, they would fight their way up to a scaffolding at the back of the arena, and as the pair prepared to perform a planned spot, Vic Grimes seemed to get cold feet, resulting in New Jack pulling him off the platform as the pair fell to the floor below, with Vic Grimes' 300-pound plus frame landing directly on top of New Jack's head. Brain fluid would immediately leak out of New Jack's nose after the fall, as he suffered a skull fracture and has been blind in one eye ever since. The pair would somehow meet again in XPW in 2002, facing off in a scaffold match where New Jack would deliberately throw Grimes off the scaffold, crashing through the tables below. New Jack would later go on record stating that he was indeed trying to actually kill Vic Grimes with this fall. Number 7. Devon Dudley's scarred forehead. As a result of too much blading back in the day, many wrestlers bear scars on their foreheads, from the likes of Abdullah the Butcher to Sabu. The scars on these athletes are hard not to notice. Back before health was taken more seriously in wrestling, blading would be seen on the regular, but nowadays the wrestling industry takes much more of a focus on the well-being of its performers, with blood and blading only reserved for the most heated of feuds. Devon Dudley is another star whose forehead bears the scars of his career, having been an ECW original alongside his kayfabe brother Bubba Ray. The Dudleys helped define the word extreme with weekly doses of hardcore violence. Due to Devon being bald, his scars are clearly visible to this day. You'd think out of anyone Devon would know about the dangers of blading, having been a part of the infamous ECW Mass Transit incident where New Jack bladed a rookie wrestler by the name of Mass Transit, resulting in emergency treatment and a lawsuit. Number 6. Mick Foley's missing ear. Mick Foley is another legend who has had his fair share of gruesome injuries during his career, from being thrown off Hell in a Cell to being hit with barbed wire. The hardcore legend truly lived up to his name. However, out of all of his injuries, perhaps the most noticeable would be the fact that half of his right ear is missing. Back in 1994, on a fateful night in Munich, Germany, Foley's alter ego Cactus Jack would take on Big Van Vader during a European WCW house show tour. The pair would always have brutal matches together, but on this occasion, when Foley went to perform his famous hangman spot, the ropes were too tight and Foley's head was trapped. He managed to squeeze his way out, but his ear didn't follow, ripping half his ear off clean in the ropes. The referee could be seen picking up Foley's ear to give him backstage later on. Afterwards, Mick Foley would have to undergo a 4-hour operation where he says all of the cartilage from the missing ear was removed and placed into a man-made pocket an inch above the remaining earlobe. Number 5. Finn Balor's broken jaw. Back at NXT TakeOver 31 in 2020, Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly would face off in the main event for the NXT Championship. Although Balor would pick up the win, he would also leave the bout with a devastating injury. During the match, Kyle O'Reilly hit a running knee that badly connected with Balor's jaw. Balor could be seen holding his jaw together throughout the rest of the match as blood began to pour. Balor would push through the pain to pick up the win, but pictures of Balor after the event showed how his face had swollen up and how his jaw was now crooked on one side. Balor would document the surgery needed to fix the devastating injury over on his Instagram account, stating, "Last Friday I underwent surgery for 2 fractures of my jaw, including one going into my tooth. After the tooth was removed, I was wired shut to restore my bite and help to align the fractures. Then 3 plates were screwed in to fixate the fractures for a quick recovery. Thankfully, no wires were needed after surgery." NXT would then use the injury in an angle between Balor and O'Reilly during Balor's return to the black and gold brand. As the year came to a close, Balor and O'Reilly would win the NXT Year-End Award for Match of the Year in 2020, with Balor making a point of saying to O'Reilly, "I don't need that trophy to remind me of our match. I have 3 steel plates in my jaw to remind me every day." Number 4. Shawn Michaels' lazy eye. During his younger days, Shawn Michaels was known for his good looks and athletic ability, but as Father Time has moved on, the vanity has faded, and it shows in the form of a lazy eye on HBK's face. However, many fans have often wondered what caused Michaels' eye to act this way. Well, it all boils down to a match that HBK had against Kane at the Unforgiven 2004 pay-per-view. As the pair fought back and forth, Kane would hit Michaels too hard in the face with a big boot, resulting in Michaels' retina becoming detached. HBK was able to finish the match, but chose to never get the surgery done in order to fix it, resulting in him having a lazy eye for the past 20 years. Although years later, during Shawn Michaels' feud against Chris Jericho in 2008, the WWE would try and pass off Michaels' lazy eye as a direct injury caused by Jericho throwing him into the Jeritron during a segment on Monday Night Raw. Number 3. Mark Briscoe missing teeth. This injury would drastically change the appearance of Mark Briscoe's character moving forwards. The incident occurred at a Pro Wrestling Unplugged's Public Enemy Pitbull's Memorial Tag Team Cup in Philadelphia at the old ECW Arena in 2006. As the event unfolded, the Briscoe brothers would find themselves in a match against the Crash crew of Kwame and Gemini. During the match, Jay Briscoe would swing a chair and accidentally whack Mark Briscoe instead of his opponent, knocking out Mark's 4 front teeth and tearing his gums up too in the process. Mark could be seen in great pain and had to be removed from the tournament for the later rounds. However, Mark would later use his missing teeth to his advantage, hilariously putting them on eBay before the website took them down for violating eBay's human remains and body parts policy. Mark would proudly show off his missing teeth during promotional material, and it immediately worked wonders, enhancing the image of the crazy Briscoe brothers. Number 2. Brock Lesnar cauliflower ear. Traditional wrestlers and combat sport athletes are usually no strangers to cauliflower ears. Back in the day of Bruno Sammartino and Buddy Rogers, this was more of a common sight, or even more recently with pure wrestlers such as Kurt Angle. But nowadays, wrestlers look to take much more care of themselves and their opponent when performing in the ring. Brock Lesnar especially is no stranger to the combat sport lifestyle, or amateur and pro wrestling worlds. Lesnar has proven over the years how he is no stranger to dealing with pain, but this specific injury dates all the way back to his amateur wrestling career, where the roughness of the padded mat is tough on the ear. It only got worse for him when he began his MMA career in 2007 as well. When Lesnar returned to the WWE in 2012, many fans thought that he was wearing an earpiece, but it was in fact his ear that had swollen up even more and remains with Brock to this day. Number 1. Cody Rhodes Scar. In the early days of AEW, the main event of the first ever Full Gear pay-per-view in 2019 would see Cody Rhodes challenge Chris Jericho for the AEW World Heavyweight title. However, the night wouldn't go as planned for Cody, as he wouldn't walk away with the championship on this night, but he would leave with a permanent scar on his face. During the match, Rhodes would throw Jericho to the outside on the entrance ramp side, which had been elevated for the pay-per-view rather than the traditional slanted ramp. As Rhodes went to hit a suicide dive through the ropes, he missed the move as planned for the match, but his head would smack directly into the metal ramp, leaving Cody pouring with blood for the rest of the match. The next day, AEW would post online an update of Rhodes' injury, including a gruesome picture. It confirmed that Cody had suffered a separated rib and had to get 8 stitches to cover the wound on his face, with him not being cleared for action for a short period of time afterwards.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling content.